there are many ways that one can experience challenges, we could call adversity. And you see a lot of people, doing marathons or Ironmans or even things like taking a cold plunge, a cold shower, things like this. And, as far as it goes, if one is taking it lightly, all fine. They build certain skills, certain traits. They can make you more disciplined and make you lose weight and build your body. And phenomenal. Fantastic. Nothing against this. My problem, and what I want to talk about today, is when certain people, especially, and this is when you see people more in the self development world, people that are more caring more about these things, and they start believing that this is true adversity, that you willingly taking a cold shower or, running however long you're going to run, that it's almost comparable to the most levels of adversity one can experience. And the problem with this is that before anyone, if you comment and start saying I'm wrong, is that they are challenges, but they are not true adversity in the sense that you can stop at any moment. If you're taking a cold shower, doing a marathon, even things that are more extreme, like an ultra marathon or whatever it may be, in the back of your mind, you always know that if you choose to stop, that's it. You don't die, nothing happens for the most part, and the worst that can happen to you is that you feel a bit embarrassed and ashamed of yourself that you couldn't push through. Even those that push through things very crazy, like I remember back in the day how David Goggins, maybe he still does it, where he did these ultra marathons that his feet are all broken up at the end of it. And it's like, yeah, that's impressive and perhaps a bit insane, but you still could have stopped whenever for the most part, and that would have been it, and been it in the sense that, there's no one, you can stop. You, in the back of your mind, you know that. But when we're talking about true adversity, in my opinion, is that you cannot escape and that it does not give you an option to, if you choose to stop, that's it. It's the type that if you choose to stop, well, it's like life is gonna end and ruin will reach you. It's the type, and I'm gonna go to the more extreme case right away, one that I've been very fortunate, and most of us have, only to be able to observe and not to experience. If we look at people that are in war, the most extreme level perhaps I can think of right now, that is true adversity, because some young dude that's in a trench as bombs are falling around him, there's no option. He can't just say, I'm tired of this. You know what? That's my limit. I'm going to go home now. I'll do the challenge another day. You have to be there. And you have to bear all this weight. And not even going that extreme, one can also see, for example, even in things that start voluntarily, but perhaps at some point cross the threshold. Let's say if you start a business and you invest a lot into it, to the point that if you stop, it will mean financial ruin to you and to your family and your kids, whatever. Also, it's not a challenge anymore. You have to keep going. It's things that it's either you keep going, or perhaps the only other option is you kill yourself or embrace that you're gonna die. And in this manner, what is so different, when we kind of take all the steps beyond the point that it doesn't allow you to escape it, is all of the, we can call them negative emotions it brings along with it. It's the constant sense of anxiety, the perhaps shortness of breath. It's the overwhelming stress, anxiety. I think I said anxiety already, but this overwhelming stress that you cannot escape because you do truly feel like your life is at stake, is in the line. And if you stop and you fail, because that's what happens likely if you just stop, it can feel like if you're gonna die, and perhaps that you're actually going to die. And in this sense, I think it's very disrespectful and a lot, it's very egotistical, perhaps we can call that, for all of these self-development guys to think that, yeah, bro, because I start my morning in the cold plunge, that this somehow is real adversity. Just call it for what it is, a challenge you like to do. Perhaps, you have to face a little discomfort there and perhaps, get a boost of energy, but that's that. Whenever you feel uncomfortable, you can just hop out. You can push a bit more, but you are always in control of when it stops. I feel like a great example of this is, for example, fasting versus true hunger. If you're fasting, willingly and you say, okay, for the next 2 days, I'm not going to eat for whatever reason you choose, and I've done it, what you know is that you are always resisting the impulse to eat. But that's very different than from someone that does not have anything to eat. Very different. And again, one of them we could call here that it's to train your discipline and not to be so dependent on your impulses, whatnot. And the other is a completely tragic situation. And perhaps we could say, oh, but they're not comparable. But I think they always are, because when we look at these things that people do, in the sense of that they say that they're going to build more discipline and more, presence of mind and calmness and wisdom and whatnot, it can help, but only to a certain extent. Because some of these lessons, they can only happen, especially I believe the important ones, the ones that bring you those traits that really cannot be faked, like calmness, presence, kindness, wisdom, true wisdom. The When we think of this idea of the old guy that you can look at him, you can talk, and you know that behind his smile and his little jokes, there's a lot of wisdom, a lot of life experience. You cannot fake these things. But what comes as well at a cost here is that even if you survive all the adversities that come your way, and I hope you do, and that you learn from them, you improve and your life becomes better, is that there's always something left behind. True adversity, what I would categorize here is that always breaks the individual to a certain extent. And, you cannot develop kindness and calmness and wisdom and all these things without giving some things up, willing or not, and to kind of, some parts of you really have to kind of die off and burn out, or burn off, not burn out in the, but they have to burn and to be left behind. And as that happens, I would say that not always is it good, because if one is under those states for a long period of time, you can develop wounds that never become scars and that never heal, and that, if you push an individual to a certain extent, he may never recover. And in that sense, kind of connecting everything I'm talking about here, I think sometimes we do it a lot too much. And a lot of times the people that are way too much into these things of this kind of created adversity for yourself, it's because in a lot of ways, and I mean, try to, or prove me wrong all you wish, I hope, if there's a way to do that, but a lot of times it's because their lives have become so comfortable and so, void of this challenge that they have to go and seek it in a lot of ways to prove to themselves that they're not that spoiled, they're not that pampered at this point in their lives, and that they still struggle. But it's very different struggle that you cannot escape from whenever you want than the one that you can. Because one is just a challenge, like a fun little game, however much you want to push that. And the other is, it's life coming at you. And when that happens, it's not fun, it's not pretty. And obviously I've never been personally in such an extreme scenario of war and, real, true adversity, the kind that, no one, I don't think, should perhaps suffer. But I've experienced some and been in moments where I really have felt that shortness of breath, and that I felt there was no way out, and that like it's all gonna be over. I don't know how I can keep going. And at some point as well, it's like you can be like, okay, I'm gonna make it work, and can make it work, but at some point life's gonna break you. And I'm gonna even share here the quote because I had before. I think it really is worth it because it just says it so much better than what I can say here, by Ernest Hemingway. And it's not the full quote, but it is the part that people know. And it goes, "The world breaks everyone, and afterward many are strong at the broken places. But those that will not break, it kills. It kills the very good and the very gentle and the very brave impartially. If you are none of these, you can be sure it will kill you too. But there will be no special hurry." And there's many ways to interpret this quote or this passage. And perhaps the interpretation I'm going to give here is wrong. I'm open to be wrong here. But I think it's, as Ernest Hemingway says here, you can expect, if you are to be brave and to go against the grain and to try to, be a bit more, what's the word here? Like impose more of your will upon the world, you can be sure that this will come to you. And whether you are starting a business or, starting a revolution or going after certain ideals, if it goes against the grain and you're displaying your bravery and your will to do something, at some point it will probably break you and it will change you. And it will change you to a point that, as for example, when in Lord of the Rings, I think it's a good example, even though it's fiction, when Frodo returns from the adventure back to the Shire, adventure from, from all of this, he's like he's in the same place and experiencing the same things, but he can't enjoy them anymore. He feels in a lot of ways like a stranger at home. And I felt like to a certain extent, and I can relate to it a little bit, that these things will change you and you can't expect to remain, to just get good out of it. And I think that's in a lot of times in self-development that it's painted as all like sunshine and rainbows, in the sense that, after the adversity, you are just a better person and wiser and more disciplined and all this, and you may be, but there's a cost to those things too. There's it requires you to see a side of life that if you hadn't seen before, it will shock you, and it will show you that it's not all sunshine and rainbows, and a part of you perhaps you will have to then try to recover after, because you will have those scars there, and you will have emotional scars, of course, hopefully not real, even though some people have the actual ones. And you will be reminded of it, because even when a bone breaks, and I broke the 2 bones in my arm when I was younger, really like broken in 2 pieces, 3 pieces, the one of them. And what you see in the x-ray is that once it heals, it is stronger at the broken place, like it is said, but it's also different at the broken place. There's a little bump there. There's a permanent reminder of what can happen, and of all the pain that happened, how uncomfortable and just how horrible the situation it is. And that just thinking about it, even for me thinking about this, kind of sends you a little bit of a shiver down your spine, because how painful it is. And you don't want to experience that again, even if it taught you a lot of things. And so I say all this because I've grown tired of a lot of people, especially people that are in very comfortable positions, that tell you these things about like, oh, I went and I did the marathon and I had a lot of ultra discomfort. But it is different from true adversity. And those people will have experienced that, perhaps in the past or in the future, but it is different. Because the thing about what I'm calling here true adversity, is that you cannot escape it whenever you wish. And when you cannot escape it, you are forced to face feelings and emotions and just a state of life that is not desirable for anyone, no matter how much it teaches you after. And so, as I say this, I'm trying to find a better conclusion to all of this, to perhaps some advice or something, but I don't think I can find it right now. All I can say is that if you are craving that adversity, it's not so much about creating these inflated scenarios, or however I might call it, even though you may do them if you want to do, of course, like doing a marathon, all these things, it's phenomenal. You're going to get in better shape. It's going to be fun. Great. But that real adversity that changes a person will be brought upon you. The more you dare, the braver you are, the more you try to live according to a certain standard and not just take the easy route and the route that makes more money or more fame or whatever. Trust me, that adversity will arrive. And when it does, in that moment, and I think that's the biggest thing about adversity, is that it really will kind of show you to yourself who you are. And it will show you, and it will give you opportunities, moments to be choosing to do what is right or what is comfortable. To continue down that path of, and very different from just someone that, again, as a marathon can stop, but it's like, okay, do I continue in the path of that I'm moral, but perhaps I'm struggling with money now, but I don't want to sacrifice that, or do I just take the easy money way out now? Do I allow myself to go and be broken, or do I kind of safeguard myself a little bit? I think that's the choice that arrives to us all. And the braver you are, the more you dare, the faster it arrives.